guys. Well, happy weekend to you. So I was gonna make this video a couple weeks ago. Um, Lou over at Godlike Collectibles put out a video talking about some cards that he picked up, some boxes of like packs and sets and things, and somebody had responded to him and talked about how nobody wants that junk, and so he made a follow up video that really kind of like, yeah, I'm with Lou on this one. Like, don't call this stuff junk. It's not junk. This isn't. And and so I was going to make one then, and just decided, you know what, I'm not going to do it. Lou covered it. I don't need to do anything else. Um, and I don't do a whole lot of opinion videos. I just don't do it. It's not something I'm interested in doing. And in fact, today is going to be less about opinion and just kind of showing you this from my perspective, maybe. So I wasn't going to do anything anyway. But then I was listening to a podcast that um, had some people from the community that were talking about it, and the idea of uh, the junk wax stuff came up. And when Lou over at Godlike Collectibles uses the term junk wax, or when there's some other people, I think Tony Talks Cards, I think it was him I just heard yesterday using the term. But when people like that use the term, very often they're using it in a way that you can tell it's like, but that's my junk wax sort of thing. Like that's the stuff that I like. But the term has always bothered me. I don't like it. I don't like it now. I use it sometimes when I'm talking to people so that they'll understand what I'm talking about. But then I quickly kind of suggest a different phrase. I like the high population cards or whatever. But it's actually really um, it's kind of offensive. Like, if I'm just being honest, it really bothers me when people who use it in a disparaging way. Um, Mangini gets harassed sometimes because he talks about not liking the term oddball, and for me, that term doesn't bother me because I don't collect a whole lot of that. Although I'm getting into that and I'm really enjoying it. Um, but some people maybe use that in a way that's not very nice, and so maybe a bit disparaging, and so maybe that's what bothers him. I don't know. But while that term has never bothered me, I understand how he's feeling because of how I react to when people say junk wax. It even saying it bothers, like me saying it bothers me. I don't like the phrase. I don't like it at all. And so I'm like, so what do? I get on here and tell you my opinions and on all that, and I suppose that's partly what I'm doing here. But I thought actually maybe a better way to do it would just be to show some cards from what is commonly referred to as the junk wax. I prefer the high pop era, or the, mass collecting, whatever you want to call it. But I just thought, instead of all of that, I'm going to show you some cards. I'm going to talk about why these cards were meaningful to me and are meaningful to me. We're just going to look at some cards. I'm going to show you all one player. I'm going to show you all Rickey Henderson cards. I'm not going to show you all of my Rickey Henderson cards. The video would be far too long. It's probably going to run too long anyway. We'll see. We'll see how much I can keep this back. But I'm just going to show you some cards of Rickey Henderson and what that meant to me then, and what it means to me now. There's some of it, people talk about it, and they use the word nostalgia. Well, that's what I loved to collect when I was a kid, so I wish you wouldn't talk that way about it now because, it's nostalgia. And somewhat, yeah, that's true. But it's not just that I'm nostalgic about the cards, but for me, and I think for a lot of people that are my age, baseball cards wasn't just it, it was their connection to the sport. It was their memories of the sport revolve around baseball. That may be more true with me than it was with other people. For those who don't know, we didn't have a TV growing up, so I don't watch TV. And so if I wanted to know what happened, I was reading the newspaper, which I did read. I read two things in the newspaper. I read the sports section and the comics. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those were the two sections I liked, and so I would read about the players and the games and all those things. But if I wanted information, most of that came from the back of my baseball cards. Most of that came from the pictures and the highlights. If I wanted to, and I never saw them, I never watched them play, at least not all that much, maybe highlights here and there. But so my way of seeing the players in action was by looking at baseball cards. And so the more Rickey Hendersons I had, the more I could visualize him playing. And so for me, it's not just about the nostalgia and the memories of collecting and the hobby. It's bigger than that. It's more than that. So this is my plea to those of you who don't like these cards. That's fine. You don't have to like them. You don't have to collect them. But when you speak disparagingly about those of us who really do love these cards, um, just just keep it to yourself. Don't post it on YouTube. That's not asking for too much, I don't think. And it was somebody, by the way, it was somebody that I really like. I like their stuff. They put out good content. They have great collection and all of that. Like, it's nothing against the person. Just, man, just the way that they were talking about these. And so, I thought I'll just make a video. I'm going to show you some Rickey Hendersons, and we'll leave it at that. So let me get some stuff situated. We'll turn some stuff around. I'm going to show you some cards. All right, so here we go. I'm not going to show many older cards because I'm trying to focus on cards that were, and when I say older, I mean earlier 80s. But I've talked about this significantly before. I loved the Turn Back the Clock cards. I love the fact that Rickey Henderson had a Turn Back the Clock cards. A lot of people have laughed about this. It's probably the Turn Back the Clock card that was printed closest to the actual card that's pictured on it, and that's the Rickey Henderson. So I could never afford his rookie card, but when I picked up his 82 tops, to me that was a huge deal. And so when you mock the junk wax people, some of them became vintage people because of Turn Back the Clock, because of those cards. So I'm going to leave that sitting there. Once in a while I'll throw a card up there that I'm going to leave up there for a little bit. You had the stickers, and there were so many of these. I'm showing this one a little earlier than I intended, but it's a Yankees sticker. I meant to show a bunch of A's cards first. I remember him, of course, playing for the Oakland A's. At first, this is when I started collecting. He would have been playing for Oakland, although just barely. Because he was traded to the Yankees in '86. But I love the food issue cards. One of the things about collecting these cards is they were just everywhere. Speaking of '86, I think that the '71 looks best with the Pirates. Part of me thinks that the '86 looks best with the Yankees. I think they look great in there. I'm going to show you a card that I did not have in my childhood. It was a gift from Tony over at Tony Talks Cards. That's his '86 O-Pee-Chee. That one deserves to be sitting right there. The O-Pee-Chee is such a cool looking card. Anyway, I'll put a link to his channel down below, since I've talked about him twice now. He's doing a subscriber. He's been on 1 year, so he's doing a giveaway. If he hits 500 subscribers, he's going to add a card to it, so that'll be pretty cool. But anyway, if you haven't subbed to his channel, you definitely should. Speaking of him in the Yankees, '89, you can see I'm not going to focus much on the '80s cards. I want to get into the late '80s and the early '90s. But then one of my favorite Topps cards of Rickey Henderson is '89 Topps, which is funny. I say one of my favorites, but this is one of my favorites from later on. His 82's certainly right up there, but the Kmart card. One of the things about collecting in that time period for me, and again, I understand you guys can call it your junk if you want, but being able to go to Kmart, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so going to Kmart and picking up some cards and being able to get one of my favorite players was fantastic. I didn't get to watch him on TV stealing bases. So this is how I got to watch him. I mean, this is, when I say I didn't watch him on TV, I mean I didn't watch him on TV. And so this is what I was able to get. And how did I know about his stats? I didn't have a book. I didn't have anybody kind of introducing me to that part of the sport. I read all the stats from the back. It's why I like stat back cards. I preferred those, although I'll show you some here in a little bit that aren't stats. This is the Fleer, and then of course the Fleer Ultra from that year look very similar. The borders, and I just loved looking at these cards. And he was of course known as a great base stealer. See, I didn't like these as much. That back, I didn't like that one as much. I liked the front of the card, although I liked this one better. You know, you get to see a little bit of Henderson's, Rickey's showmanship. And this is how I would know that he had been an MVP. It was by reading the back of a card. Most valuable player for 1990. You know, I didn't have parents who collected. I didn't have parents who followed the sport. So what I wanted to know, I learned from cards. How about the Leaf? Here he is stealing a base again. And look at all those stats. I loved it. And still do. I still love looking at these cards. I knew he had stolen the record for base stealing prior to this, but it meant a lot to me having a card with him and Lou Brock holding this together. Lou Brock was quite the gentleman, and this is the kind of thing that I would have sat and read through to learn a little bit about the history of base stealing. And Rickey Henderson, of course, talks about Maury Wells there in the back. Get some of these nice bright borders. Loved this card. Still love this card. What a great... And again, I love vintage cards. Love vintage cards. Most of my videos are about vintage, but you don't get stuff like this with these multi-action photos. The Nolan Ryan one like that looks pretty cool too. But the record steal from the Leaf card, actually, Brent Richards had a video recently where he talked about this card a little bit, but loved watching him stealing these bases. That's right. The Dream Team cards. That was a fun set to collect. Again, one of the stolen base leaders cards. I'm not even showing you all the ones I picked out to show you. I'm just just showing you some of them. Actually, let me pause before I show you that one. I pulled out two of them. Tell you how much I liked them. There's the score, and there's the upper deck version. It's the same, you know, it's taken right around the same time. Of course, it's not the same image. Different trading card companies. But again, this is how I learned. This is how I read about Rickey Henderson. Striking fear into his opposition. Hit for average and power, but what he does best is run. And knowing that my favorite baseball player was breaking records, man, that was always cool to me. There's the one from Topps. So Topps, upper deck, score, all celebrating that. This was the one I was getting ready to show you, the upper deck collector series. You can kind of see that image in the background. We didn't have much in the way of shiny back then. But then there was the Fleer Ultra. Loved getting the Fleer Ultra. You don't want to buy packs of these today. They're all stuck together. But great images, very glossy. That's why they stick so much these days. If you buy these old packs, you can find them that aren't stuck too much. But anyway, the Fleer from '92. And the Select. And some people say when they're talking about Fleer, they say flare. Fleer and flare are not the same thing. Flare was Fleer's kind of top flight. This was their premier card. So you could pay a couple dollars for some Fleer. You could upgrade a little bit and get a pack of the flares. which these are thicker cards. There was less of them in a pack. I believe they came in boxes. Like the pack came in a box. Great images on these cards. You know, no border, pictures right to the edge. And that's Flair, made by Fleer. Of course, you always got plenty of images of Rickey stealing the base. Upper Deck just giving you some limited stats. The big smile. Oh, what's he doing? Stealing a base. You guys got all your Topps gold and all the refractors and whatnot. This was my first Topps gold. I'm not sure this exact card, but this was my first Rickey Henderson gold card. '93 Topps gold. I've got the regular version of that, of course, but you want to see some gold. So how about some Fleer Ultra? And Upper Deck. And again, I get it. There's no value here. I'm not showing you anything that's worth any money. And if that's why you're collecting, that's fine. But it's funny how often people say, "Well, we don't collect for the money. I'm not a dealer. I'm not trying to sell. I'm a collector." But then we want to mock the people who collect a lot of cards. So, see, now I'm just griping. I need to stop. But when he got traded to the Blue Jays, that was a big disappointment for me. But it did give us some pretty good cards. This is in '94. That is significant because the Blue Jays are currently in the World Series. The last time they won, Rickey Henderson was on their team. That was his second, and I think his last World Series ring, if I'm not mistaken. So I got a few cards. So when I started getting cards of him in the Blue Jays, it was kind of disappointing, but still great cards. It's funny how often you find him batting instead of stealing bases. I should have probably thrown one of those cards up there. That Donruss card from him in the Blue Jays. It's one of my favorites of his, actually. I love the Donruss thing. You see, like, just setting it down, it shines like that. Score getting into the game. I showed some score earlier, but here's another one. Playing with the Blue Jays. And then back with the A's. Back in '95. I think this was part of the deal with Rickey, is that he would go to the Blue Jays, that the Athletics would pick him back up. Doesn't look too happy in that picture, does he? Swinging. I know he's not known for hitting, but he still holds the record for the most home runs by a leadoff hitter. And I don't think there's anyone too awfully close. Well, how do you know that? Well, you collect his cards. Almost done. Then I'm going to stop, and I'll quit griping. I'm really not trying to gripe. It really bothered me. Like, it was one of those things where, like, I kind of stewed for a little bit while I was listening. And I listen to podcasts to relax while I'm working. It's a Leaf card. Pretty cool. Love this. And then how about, you talk about shine. See if I can get this just right. See, it looks like, hold on, I'm going to take it out of that sleeve because you might think that's the penny sleeve, but it's really not. The sleeve kind of reflects it, but that's the card. That'll blind you if you're not careful. Look at that card. So cool. The way it reflects everything around it. You could probably look real closely and see I haven't shaved yet today. Maybe he needs to trim his beard, huh? Anyway, one more card from the Upper Deck. And then I'll shut this down. I've gone on too long. Love these Upper Deck. This is the SP. These edges came in different colors. You get them in red or blue or I think silver or gray, one of those. Anyway, I'll end it there with one final plea. Oh, please stop saying junk wax. This is not junk. This isn't just the stuff of my childhood. This is the stuff of my today. I still will pick up these cards and flip through them and look at them and just uh, enjoy the cards in my collection. Enjoy whether it's the upper decks or the pinnacle. I just love it. So I'm going to leave it there. That'll be a good snapshot for the cover of my photo. But anyway, if you've made it this long through all my griping, I promise I'll stop it. No more complaining, at least until next time. But thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next one.